7:05. My name is Mohit, and I welcome every one of you to be part of this very interesting discussion. Today, we are on the ninth session of this, and in fact, yesterday, Mr. Joseph and I we were thinking of having a coffee table book of all that's Kerala. Now, just imagine we complete our 25 sessions very soon in the coming days, and we can have a coffee table book, which will actually be the real encyclopedia. I'm saying the word real encyclopedia of what entire Kerala is all about, from cuisine now to movies, also to the royal families. In the past, we have had some very interesting discussions. I'm part of City Book Leaders, and that's where I always look for books to come into the picture here. Mr. Joseph and I, we connected over books, and that's how this journey has begun to know more about Kerala, despite the fact that I am based out of Delhi. And today, in fact, I was joking with one of my college batchmates. One of my earlier bosses in my banking days used to say, Mohit, why don't you come and get settled in Mumbai? So I said, why I'm okay in Delhi. So he always to say, no, you please try to understand that part of the world, that half part of the country is actually culture, and where we live is all agriculture. And
Okay.
Talwar, you just mentioned about whatever is happening politically. Yes, we do understand that. And that's where the real part of the culture has to be explored for us in this part of the country, which only explores some part of Kerala or some part of other South Indian states. But this is a beautiful melting pot discussion that Mr. Joseph takes up, brings in variety of discussions. And we look forward to this yet again lovely session today because this is about movies and it takes the entire journey as well. And there could be no better person than Mr. Jayakumar as our guest to discuss this complete discussion of the movies of the Malayalam language. I welcome Mr. Joseph, Mr. Jayakumar, and also a special guest, Mr. Rajiv Talwar, um, to begin the session. Welcome, everyone, sir.
Thank you so much, Mohit. Thanks for your introductions. Uh, Let me welcome Jay Kumar and Rajiv Talwar. Rajiv Talwar is one of our batchmates who was also the administrator of Lakshadweep. So I'm going to have him on our show many years ago, one of these days, maybe in January. But first, let me welcome everybody who's in the audience to the ninth episode of All That's Kerala, a chat along the Backwaters, which is a fortnightly program every 2 weeks that City Book Leaders, of which Mohit Gupta is the founder, director, and Kerala Museum, Cochin, are presenting. All That's Kerala tries to introduce Kerala to the country and to the world, and to Kerala itself. Again, many thanks, Mohit, City Book Leaders, and Atiti of the Kerala Museum. She's not here today for supporting this program. Today's episode is on Malayalam cinema and a journey from Kollywood. Kollywood is actually Kodambagam, which is the Hollywood of Chennai, the then Madras. The Malayalam film industry actually began in Chennai. Its heydays in the 50s, 60s, and 70s was in Chennai, in Kollywood, in Kodambagam. And then it moved on into the space in Kerala, which we now call Bollywood, which was in the late 80s and the 90s, and then continued to be in Kerala. And it also during the period, as I understand, I'm sure Jay Kumar will tell us better, shifted from an indoor shoot in sets, artificial sets, to a largely outdoor shoot these days. And today it's growing, and I'm sure the future of the Malayalam cinema is based on the use of technology. So today we're going to discuss this journey from Kollywood, that is Kodambagam in Madras, which was the center of the South Indian film industry, to Bollywood, and perhaps, who knows, in the next 10 years, 20 years, to Hollywood. So let me first welcome Jay Kumar. Now, who better to look at the history of Malayalam cinema and take us through a journey from Kodambagam and Madras, where it all began, to what it is today, and then help us to take a peek into the future than Sri K Jayakumar, one of my batchmates in the IAS. Jayakumar is one of the most celebrated IAS officers in the state of Kerala, someone who has made a tremendous mark in the administration of the state. He has been Collector Kozhikode, he has been Tourism Director, Tourism Secretary, Vice-Chancellor of 2 universities, the Mahatma Gandhi University in Kottayam, and the founder Vice-Chancellor of the newly established Malayalam University in Tirur. And then, of course, who has not heard of Kerala being described as God's own country? Everyone knows Kerala as God's own country. But not many really know that it is Jayakumar who first coined that term. First in Malayalam, he called it in Malayalam Devathinte Swandam Nadu, which he admitted did not sound quite right. There was something missing there. And then he translated it into English, and presto, it became God's own country. That was born, and Kerala got a new tagline. So that is something I think the state of Kerala owes to Jayakumar. Then there is something else that you perhaps do not know about him, and that is that he is the son of one of Malayalam's most famous and prolific film directors, M. Krishnan Nair, who has had the largest number of box office films in the Malayalam cinema history ever. Now, who has not heard about Malayalam classics, cinema classics, like Kuttikkuppayam, Kavya Mela, Karthika, Kudumbam, Collector Maladi, Kaattu Tulasi, Cochin Express, Kanatha Veshangal, Kalam Mari, Kadamari. Now, there's one common thread that runs through all this. One, of course, that it all starts with K, Ka, but they were all directed by Jayakumar's father, M. Krishnan Nair. He gave to Malayalam cinema that boost which it required in the late 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. And the Malayalam film industry is here today because of Jayakumar's father, M. Krishnan Nair. Coming back to Jayakumar himself, Jayakumar is a writer, a film critic, and a speaker. And most of all, he is a very down-to-earth person, a quality that he says he got from his famous father. Now, Jayakumar is also very much close to the Malayalam film industry. He has written over 100 songs for Malayalam films so far, and I'm sure he'll write much more. So welcome, Jayakumar, to All That's Kerala Chat Along the Backwaters. Thank you for being with us tonight. Let me start off by asking you, how would you assess the contribution of your father, the late Sri M. Krishnan Nair, to the Malayalam industry, film industry? And most of all, what has been his impact on the Malayalam film industry today? Does his legacy still continue to contribute to Malayalam cinema today? Let me start off with that. What is your answer?
Thank you, Joseph, for inviting me to this very ambitious program, I should say, because I don't know what is the time limit we are working with. Is it 1 hour?
1 hour.
1 hour. It means before 8 o'clock we should read the horoscope of Malayalam cinema. It is true. Anyway, I'm not a film historian or a film critic or whatever. But I grew up, I was born in a filmy family. And by the time I started to know something, my father was already a film director. When I started going to school, people knew me by my father's name because my father's name was stuck all over the place in posters saying that Samvidhanam M. Krishnan Nair. So I grew up as my father's son, in the sense my father was a very popular person, very famous person in those days. Coming to talk of him, I do not want to talk much of your time. Coming to talk of him, he was a very down-to-earth person. You said I am a down-to-earth person, but I think I have my own angularity sometimes. But my father was an extremely simple person. He did not complete his graduation because he was in a hurry to join films. In those days, films were in the nestling stage. And finally, he ended up in the Maryland studio in Trivandrum, Nema. And he started working with P. Subramaniam of the Maryland studio. Right from the early days, when Malayalam film industry was just in a fledgling stage. And finally, Mr. P. Subramaniam, the founder of Maryland Studios, seeing that this young man is so much enthusiastic about films, and he was assistant director, associate director, everything, he finally entrusted one film to him that was a film called CID. I think if I remember correctly, that was in 49 or 50, even before I was born. Then he took another one or two films there. Then he migrated to Chennai, tried to try his luck in Tamil films, didn't work. Then by 1963-64, he got a real breakthrough, break in this by this film called Kuttikkuppayam. It was on the marital problems of the Muslim family, Muslim community, and that became a super hit film. It went on to run in the theaters for nearly 150 days. I think that was the first time the director's film was also printed on the poster. I had a poster in my house somewhere lying there earlier. I'm talking about 1963 or 64 when I was 12-year old. So then on, he never looked back. 60s and 70s were his decades. And 80s, of course, the atmosphere changed and he had to slowly give way. But from 1950s onwards, till he retired in 1986 or so, he went on to direct around 125 films, nearly 90 films in Malayalam, and nearly 25 films in Tamil, and a few more in Telugu, altogether 125 films. That is a record of sorts. In 1 year, he used to direct around six or seven films. He never came home. We used to go to Chennai during our weekends, our holidays. So he was a very commercially, very successful film director. But I will not say that he sort of shaped the destiny of Malayalam films by the artistic inputs. No, he was a commercial director. But he had done very good films like Agniputre, Kavemela. He won some awards, but he was never after awards. But the best part of his contribution, I should say, that he gave a commercial success. He made films very commercially viable and successful. Even when one film flopped, he would work on the next project, make the film viable, make a successful film for the producer and ask him to go back to Kerala from Kodamba. Don't hang around here, don't lose much money. So going on to direct around 90 to 100 films in Malayalam is not a small thing. Plus, he was a director of technical excellence. His technology was very good. In those days where technology was very sort of fledgling technology, very, very mediocre. When we look back today, technology was just in baby steps. But then he was a good technician and he used to know within his limitation to maximize the technological output of his films. And therefore, he actually directed one film in 25 days using minimum films. In those days, these were not digital technology, it was films. You can expose 100 rolls and lose a lot of money, but he could take a film with 30 rolls of films, economizing production, and very good at technology. And also he knew the knack of narrating a tale, and therefore his films were successful. Therefore, when I sum up his contribution to Malayalam film, basically he gave economic grit to Malayalam films by making them successful. So much so, more producers came to the field and more films were made. More people came to the industry, plus his technological thing. Then he went on to direct superstars like MGR and N.T. Ramarao and Jayalalitha and all these people. They came to him. He never went up. He was a very simple man. He never indulged in cinema politics. They came to him because they knew that he had a technical finesse about taking films. Therefore, he directed N.T. Ramarao, M.G. Ramachandran, and all these people, and well known in Tamil also. So this is what I would say, that he finally went on he got this J.C. Daniel Award for his overall contribution to Malayalam films. And he died a happy man in 2001.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jayakumar. Jayakumar, I always thought you were a very handsome person. But when I saw your dad's photograph, there it is. He is so much more good looking than you are. He should have been an actor instead of a director, I think. But the films must have run in your blood all the time. And that is perhaps the reason why you have also entered the film industry, albeit as a writer, as a lyricist. You have written over 100 songs for Malayalam films. Songs and music has evolved over time. How would you compare the lyrics for the Malayalam songs and the music today with what it was, say, 20, 30 years ago? How has it evolved? Do you think the sort of lyrics and the music that of those times are still relevant today? Of course, apart from the nostalgic part of it, when I believe you wrote your first film number, lyric, when you were just 19 years old.
Yes.
So times have evolved. How do you think music has changed? How do you think lyrics have changed today? In a sense, lyrics have. It's for you to answer.
I'll very briefly say that
right.
When my father was on the top of the film industry, I never had any idea of Engling about joining films at all as an actor because acting is not in my gene. Nor did I want to direct at that time. In this evening of my life, I might direct a film or two. That's a different thing. But always, my idea was to become a lyricist. So when my father used to come back home from Chennai, I would ask about lyrics, lyricists. Have you met V. Bhaskaran? Have you met Vailar Ramavarma? So he would come and give me the manuscripts of some of the very famous songs, which Vailar had written in his handwriting. So I used to keep it. So this idea of becoming a lyric writer, songwriter, was in my mind. So when I first attempted this first song when I was 19-year-old, it was on condition that you shall not ask me for further films and further opportunities in films. This is only one of its kind. As a student, you better study and not no dalliance in films. So that was one of its kind when I was 19. So if I can, as is customary with the Malayalam artists and all that, I could say that I'm celebrating 50 years in cinema because I'm turning 69, and my first film was when I was 19. So I think 50 years in Malayalam cinema is not a small this thing. Anyway, I wrote that first song, nothing happened. But then I joined the service. I joined IAS in, as you know, in 78. Then after joining the service in 1985, 84, the bee in the bonnet started making sounds. It started buzzing, saying that I told myself, look, you never wanted to be an IAS officer. That, of course, happened by default, I should say, or by luck. But then I always wanted to be a creative person. So how do I marry these two? So I somehow ventured into films, and my father never said no. He said, go ahead and write your film songs. So I got government permission, I did not want the vigilance DYSP to come back to me saying that, why did you write film songs? This is violative of conduct rules X, Y, Z. So I took permission and started writing in films. Today I have written not 100 film songs. I have written songs for nearly 100 films, 120 films, 110.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Altogether in Malayalam, there might be around 300 film songs and another 300 non-film songs like TV songs, drama songs, light songs, devotional songs. And altogether, my corpus would be around 600 songs in Malayalam. I'm bringing out a book. Already there are a couple of books, but this is a composite book containing all my lyrics. I did not do it because when you bring out the anthology of all your lyrics, it appears as if you have wound up. I'm not putting down my shutters. The shutters are still up, I still write. Anyway, so when I started writing regularly as a film lyricist, that was in 1983, 84, 85, the Malayalam film industry, film songs were on a very good pedestal. In the sense, there were very wonderful music directors like Ravindran, Johnson, and all these people. Although the stalwarts have wound up. But then that was also a very good period. I could pen a few very good lyrics, which became very popular. So for most of the people, I'm not an IAS officer, but most of them relate to me as the writer of such and such song. In fact, I have saved many situations where people would relate to me saying that, sir, you have written that song. Okay, then no problem, we'll settle it. So that there is a heart-to-heart communication. But today, after the I think with the onset of the new millennium, after 2000, film songs of Malayalam industry, Malayalam films have undergone some kind of a mutation. That is because of 2-3 reasons. One, most of the music directors, if I may say, as the Malayalam University Vice-Chancellor, I would say that most of the film directors, most of the producers, and most of the music directors are English medium educated fellows. They can't even read Malayalam. So when you write a beautiful lyrics with a lot of poetry in it, they can read it or not, they can understand it. So they say, sir, you simplify it. When you simplify it, it becomes a colloquial, run-of-the-mill kind of song, which I do not want to write. But then people are fascinated by that kind of very diluted lyrics. And music accompaniment, undue importance to the music accompaniment. So the instrumentation overpowers the lyrical quality of the songs. Therefore, what happens, it might be an instant hit, like all kinds of songs are there, like Jimmy Kamal and all those songs. Their fascination for a week or so, maybe a fortnight, hit of a fortnight, but thereafter it fades. It never goes into the repertoire of the Malayali to be sung again and again. That is because a song walks on 2 feet. its first foot is the lyrical value, followed by accompanying matching music. If there is a mismatch between lyrics and music, the music doesn't work. The song doesn't work. It doesn't become mobile. Earlier, in the heydays of Malayalam film music, the music and lyrics were like, what should I say? Like, if I may use a Kalidas metaphor, it was like word and meaning. It was like word and meaning. The song and the tune and the lyrics and the meaning were so embedded, so enmeshed. Thereafter, there was a divorce between these two. And there are we are forced to write meaningless lyrics, and the music directors, what should I say? What is the word for that? His hegemony is the music director's hegemony that is now directing the course of music. As a result, it is very difficult to recall many of the modern songs. Even if you are asked to sing a song in Malayalam, immediately you go back your 70s or 60s and you recall one of those old numbers. Most of the Malayalis. The new numbers are... It is a 1967 film of my own father, Tulasi. You don't recall these films because there's a mismatch between music and lyrics. I think Malayalam film industry is in the midst of a crisis, trying to discover an idiom for itself. Tamil film music has discovered its new idiom for the new generation. Hindi music has discovered that idiom. Malayalam is still meddling with it, still groping in the dark to find out the suitable idiom. Perhaps it will happen in a year or two, and we will rediscover a new blossom, a new efflorescence of Malayalam.
What a brilliant analysis, Jayakumar. It's beautiful. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I understood the whole of what you were saying when you said that it's like 2 feet. 1 feet is the music, and the other feet is the lyrics. And you are lame if you're challenged these days if you don't have one of them. Thank you so much. Brilliant. Malayalam films have always had social themes as its center. They've not been merely entertainment films, even though your father, as you say, was a commercial director, which is very true, a box office hit oftentimes. But his films, including his films, everything try to change social thinking and mores. How much do you think such films, and even films afterwards, 90s, 2000, in the present millennium, how much do you think films have shaped the Malayali mind today, the Malayali psyche? How much has it shaped the Malayalam society today? What is the impact of films on our thinking, on the Malayali thinking?
I have a slightly offbeat answer for that. Many Malayalam film enthusiasts may disagree with me. Malayalam films have influenced Malayalis thinking and society and the social thinking in a much less influential fashion than Malayalam drama. Malayalam theatre has influenced Malayalis thinking, progressive Malayali thinking, far more effectively in the 40s and 50s than the Malayalam cinema of the 60s and 70s. It has influenced, no doubt, but the contribution of the theatre, KPAC and so many theatres, for example, the left movement in Kerala was riding on the wave of the popularity of the Malayalam theatre. When films were, in a very, very infant position, or not very advanced, but theatre was a very successful this thing. So if Malayalis have become extremely progressive and socialist in our thinking, it is all because of the theatre. Theatre has been a major influence. Fiction has also been a major influence. But film industry, I think Malayalam film's contribution to the Malayali life is more of an entertainment value than a social engineering value. Although there had been occasional good films, but on the artistic front, Malayalam film industry has scored a very high note than many of his counterparts in Tamil or Kannada or Telugu, where they are still mired in extravaganza, like what is that film? The biggest extravaganza ever, Bahubali. The Bahubali syndrome. The Bahubali syndrome has never struck Kerala, although recently some of the films have been emulating them. But by and large, Malayalam film industry has not contributed to a social awakening, but it has helped a lot in shaping a cinema culture, in a visual culture. And the artistic quality of Malayalam films has been extremely good. In the sense, that is why we compete with, even today, I think yesterday I read Jallikattu or the Pellisheri is competing for the Oscars. So technologically and aesthetically, Malayalam cinema is a step ahead of any other films in the country. I should say even better than the Bengali films and even better than Marathi films, which were the benchmarks of once upon a time. Today, Malayalam films are known for their originality, where their offbeat thematic choice of themes and very bold treatment of themes.
Why do you think, Jayakumar, that the Malayalam films did not impact society as much as its plays? Why? What could be the reason that the plays, the Malayalam drama and the theatre, was able to influence our thinking much more than films? Because films have a much wider reach than plays.
See,
So
there are
there's a bit of a contradiction.
There are a couple of factors. Firstly, filmmaking is an expensive proposition. You cannot make a film these days without having maybe 3 crores or 5 crores in your pocket. So, earlier also, filmmaking was a very expensive industry. Now, who is the person coming with this money? Who wants to make more money? He is not socially oriented, you know. Unlike a play where people of similar orientation come together and present a play, film industry was, to a large extent, it revolved around the producers and subsequently on the directors. So I don't think, of course, we have left-oriented progressive filmmakers like P.A. Bakker, Lenin Rajendran. We have a stream. I'm not saying that we have, but their influence has been much less than the theatre because they have to satisfy a producer. And governments have not done much in this. Although I was the managing director of Kerala Film Development Corporation, we offer facilities, but then we cannot distinguish between a progressive film and a non-progressive film. We can only say that you make films in Kerala, we'll support it. That is all. So one reason is that it is basically an expensive art. Therefore, people who are money-minded come to the field. You cannot influence their thinking. They want successful films, at best aesthetically good films. That is a major decision, major factor why film has not been very effective in social engineering.
Perhaps you've answered one of the questions that one of our viewers, Ramsi Menon, has asked, which is, he asks you, what prevents senior Malayalam movie makers from making meaningful, topical and touching movies with lower costs? Perhaps partly his question is answered by what you say, but what prevents you from making a film at lower cost? And Srikumar Raghavan asks another completely unrelated question. You wrote Kudayatriyil without going to Moogambiga. Did you go there after that? And what do you think you could have written the lyrics better if you had gone there before you wrote?
Not really. Because when you write a lyric, when you write a song, you are not describing what you have seen. You are recreating your sensations, your emotions, your feelings, your surrender, your devotion. That remains the same, whether I have gone there or not. My mental picture of the deity and the atmosphere of surrender, self-surrender, and devotion is just the same. By going there, of course, it must have been strengthened, but even without going there also, you can be extremely devotional. I don't think my going there really affects. I wrote another song, Sauparniga Amrita Vijigal Padam, after me sitting there. Not that in intensity it differs. That's a purely personal thing, whether I have gone there or not before writing that. But the devotion is more important, and devotion doesn't change by.
And what prevents Malayalam directors from making films, not directors, producers from making films at lower cost? Meaningful films. What prevents Malayalam directors today and producers today from making films at a lower cost, which are meaningful?
No. This is a very relevant question. You see, what are the contributing factors of cost indicators? The bulk of your cost is the cost given to the major leading artists, superstars, mega stars, upcoming stars. It's a star cast that takes away more than 50% of the cost. Plus your shooting expenses. Per day, I don't know, per day you spend around 5 lakhs of rupees for a normal shooting. And per day shoot expense is nearly 5 lakhs. I may be plus or minus 20%, I don't know. But by and large, it is around 5 lakhs per day you burn for 1 day shooting. And if you shoot the film for 40 days, that itself comes to 2 crores of rupees. Plus your remuneration to the artists, to the technicians. So remuneration to the artists is the major component of the film, cost of the film. So as long as Malayalam film industry is tagged on to the superstars, you cannot cut down the cost. But then you have the option. You can go for low budget films with lesser star cast, but good actors. But then where do you release it? I think technology is giving an option. Your theaters will not give you theaters for releasing a very excellent film, but no actors of reputation. They will not give you theater, not even for a noon show. Not even for a noon show. Now the OTT platforms are coming as an answer. I'm sure the lockdown-induced problems might trigger a new wave of or open up a new vistas by which aesthetically superior films without the overcast, if I may use the word, so much of superstars and all that, we can still do that. Even I'm trying to make a film like that, you know.
Good luck to you. Malayalam films have won a lot of, not lot, it won the silver medal, Neelakuil in 1954. And then of course, Chemmeen, everybody has heard about Chemmeen. It won the President's Gold Medal in 65. But of late, I think we have not been winning too many awards. What could be the reason for that?
Pardon?
But of late, we have not been winning too many gold medals and at the national level. What could be the reason for that?
Not really, because today, you know, filmmaking has become highly democratic. Earlier, a few film directors used to monopolize. Now, all kinds of people come up. New young people with wonderful ideas, totally offbeat ideas. Therefore, it has become highly diffused. But our films, our young filmmakers, very challenging filmmakers, very bold filmmakers, they are getting recognition worldwide in many film festivals and all that. National Film Awards, you know, it has come under a lot of criticism also, because Bahubali also got the Best Film Award or something. The National Film Awards, like when Chemmeen got the award, of course, it had the credibility. I think slowly credibility of the national awards is at a, I should say, at a discount.
Do you think juries can be manipulated? Do you think juries can be manipulated and are they being manipulated?
I don't. As a former civil servant who has been trained in the art of cautious
Okay.
words, I don't say it is manipulated, but its credibility has gone down.
Thank you so much. You should have been in the foreign service.
Anyway, but our filmmakers, our young filmmakers in Kerala are going places. They may not attract national attention, but then they are going international festivals. They are making all kinds of films. But then Kerala has also Malayalam films have also produced some of the wonderful film directors of India. For example, Adur Gopalakrishnan, Aravind, P. A. Bakkar. There are a lot of filmmakers who are legendary. Adur Gopalakrishnan is a living legend with us. He has, you see, if you want to understand his contribution and his importance in film industry, you should go abroad and talk to a film buff. I went to this university in Germany, Tübingen University, in my capacity as the Vice-Chancellor of Malayalam University, to set up Gundat chair, a chair in the name of Herman Gundat. So the head of the department of the film division of that university came to meet me with a request. Do you know Adur Gopalakrishnan? I said, of course I know. Can you persuade him to come over and accept our invitation, be our guest for a week? We'll have an Adur festival. I told him, he said, there are a lot of requests. Let me make. He didn't go because he is a bit sought after person. People who are into the film industry, they know what are his contributions. What is the kind of aesthetics and technological innovation that he has. We do not understand because Mutatte Mullaki Manamilla, he is one among us. But I think he's a legendary filmmaker. He has redrafted the grammar of films, the visual grammar of films. So I'm a great fan of his. After Satyajit Ray, he has to be treated on par with Satyajit Ray.
Jayakumar, let me put it like this to you. A grammar has to be understood by the common people. If you see a film like Eli Patayam, frankly, it's so difficult to understand the movie, isn't it? So it is not merely the technique of the film. It's not merely, it is also how people relate to the movie. And that's perhaps where your father scored. He brought in social themes. I'm not in any way undermining Adur Gopalakrishnan, but sometimes it's difficult for the ordinary person.
No, it's a very worthwhile question, worthwhile point you have raised. This happens all the time.
Frankly, I couldn't understand Eli Patayam.
No,
I saw it 30 years ago.
See, when I started painting at the age of 50 or something. I conducted a few painting exhibitions all over the world, in the sense Korea, all these places, and all over India I have conducted. When I started painting, I discovered that I have not understood painting so far. It's only when I started painting, I discovered how you have to approach a painting to appreciate it. In Malay, particularly Malayalis and most of the Indians ask, when you see an abstract painting, what is the meaning of this? There is no meaning to it. The painting is the meaning. Likewise, when you see a film, if you are approaching that film for a story to be told, to learn that story, I think your appreciation of the film is partial. Of course, there is a story to be told. It is a visual treat. There is a visual grammar to it. You are seeing the film. You are not listening to the film. You are not reading it. You are seeing. It's a visual art. So the grammar by which a story or something is narrated, I think you have to visit Elipatayam or Swayamvaram again, not for the story part, but how the director has presented before you in selected visuals a slice of life. For example, Satyajit Ray's Pather Panjali, there is not a great story about it, but Pather Panjali takes a slice out of a very rural life, rural poverty and rural life, and presents it in selected images. Every image, every shot is an image, well-crafted image, well well composed image with lights, shades, everything. A director applies all his aesthetic erudition into it in creating an image. So when you watch a film, you are seeing hundreds of films moving very fast, but then every frame has a grammar to it. So if you look at it as a visual treat of how, or when you read a short story is not a story. It just exposes you to a slice of life. You know. Likewise, film viewing also has a grammar. You watch good films of the masters, slowly we will understand. I also have gone through this phase. That is why I see this.
Yeah, thank you. I'll watch Elipatayam again. Maybe at this age, I'll appreciate it better. Let me ask you a question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. If you were to choose between M. Krishnan Nair and Adur Gopalakrishnan, whom would you choose?
No. If I'm trying to spend my evening to have a nice time, to have some entertainment, I'll definitely go out for my father's film. But if I'm a student of film, if I want to understand what is the art of narration, I'll go to Adur. There are two different things. It's like reading a book, you know. You can take a Arthur Conan Doyle and, you know, you can spend your time. But if I'm a serious reader, if I want to read something serious, I'll take a Dostoevsky and read. These are two different mindsets.
Thank you so much. I mean, I've seen some recent film, not recent really, but I've seen some Malayalam films. I saw it recently. They may not be recent films, which are excellent. I saw some films recently, Malayalam films recently. The films are not recent, but I saw them recently, which are excellent. I mean, Patte Mari was something that sort of struck a chord. Drishyam, of course, it's a murder mystery, but still. And Panchavadi Palam long ago, but it's such a film. And that brings me to the question which one of our batchmates, Love Varma, asks. Love Varma asks, Jayakumar, which recent Malayalam movie would you recommend? I would ask the same question. Love is asked.
Difficult question, because films. What is the recent film? I don't watch films much of these films recently, but this one which is going for this Jallikat is a good film. Jallikat is a very good film. It's a bull, you know, trying to escape from the butcher. That is a story. A bull trying to escape from the butcher. That is Jallikat. I think it may not be available on Netflix, but there are then, for example, this film, you know, Uyere. That is about the acid attack on an air hostess. Uyere is a good film. It's available on Netflix. Lavarma, I will recommend it. You watch this film, Uyere.
You spoke about, Jayakumar, you spoke about superstars. They're not really superstars in Kerala today. They are mega stars. They have a huge following, and they have these fan clubs. I'm not mentioning names, but obviously every Malayali will know. While Prem Nasir and Satyam in those days were extremely good artists, they didn't come to be known as megastars. They didn't have this fan clubs. Do you think that this concept of fan clubs and megastars has impacted the film industry for good and for bad?
ഞാനൊരു വെബിനാറിലിരിക്കുന്നു. Webinar. Sorry, it was my son.
That's okay. Did you get the question?
Yeah, I got it. You see, Prem Nazir was the first superstar, I should say, Satyan. They were the two superstars. And my father has worked with Prem Nazir. Out of the 95 films in Malayalam, my father directed. Prem Nazir was a hero in 45 films. They were like so thick. They were so thick friends. It was Prem Nazir who ensured that my father doesn't desert the film industry out of distress. He said, have resilience, one day we will make it. And both of them made it. You see, they were very humane persons. I'm not saying that the present superstars are not humane, but the times have changed. And what is the cost of making a film today? 10 crores, 15 crores, 20 crores. And superstars take a lot of money and they have the fan following and all that. Therefore, the entire dynamics has changed. Prem Nazir's days have gone. Simple days. In fact, there is a photo of my father and Prem Nazir sleeping on a parapet wall on the roadside. I think it is making its sounds on WhatsApp also. People have taken it. So these days you can't imagine. Exactly. Yeah.
That's a what. Both of them, his father and Prem Nazir, the superstar, are sleeping on a roadside curb. Imagine that.
While they were preparing for the next shot, I suppose. So times have changed. And you can't blame them because the industry revolves around them. When the industry revolves around superstars, they try to develop their own angularities. Some of them are out of necessity. Some of them have been induced on them. So you can't blame them. Industries like that. It is a multi-million industry. They are the kings. They are the kings. They control the show. So you can't expect them to be too democratic. So most of them are very simple, nice people. All these people are very simple people. But then there is a aura around them. And for example, a scene like this which you showed cannot exist now because there is what is called what do you call it?
Yeah. They are huge, air-conditioned bedroom, bathroom.
Exactly. So once that has come into being, after taking a shot, they go back to the caravan. That's called the caravan. They go back to the air-conditioned caravan. So when the shot is ready, the director's man will go and say, "Sir, shot is ready." So he comes and what is it? You smile at the heroine. So he comes, screens and goes back. So life is like that. Life is like that. You can't blame.
Yeah, but that is also leading Jayakumar to cliques in the film industry. We criticize trade unions, industry trade unions, but the film industry has become unionized at the very highest level. You have a body like Amma, which is a body which which is for the rich. I won't even say protect, which is for the rich and famous. How do you see the role of a body like Amma? Do you think it's preventing new actors from coming into?
See, you cannot judge Amma, FIFCA, and all those associations by what we read in the newspapers. Newspapers, try to picturize as if their decision is wrong and all that. I'm not trying to defend or offend them. We should understand that the Association of Film Technicians or Film Artists, they are basically technicians or artists. They are not trade unionists. They are not leaders. Of course, they are leaders in their own way. They have come together to protect the interest of their members from being exploited. There is a lot of exploitation in films also. So basically, these associations have come into being to protect the well-being and interest of the members, mostly vulnerable members, low-paid members. So these associations' basic task is to protect the interest of these members. When they are asked to sit in judgment on socially volatile issues, they might take some decisions. It is better for us not to comment on them. It is their internal politics. It is their internal decision. We should only judge these associations by what they have done to their members. On ethical issues, what they have taken, the stand taken on such and such issues, I don't want to comment because they are all controversial.
But then what happens when the exploited, as you said, becomes the exploiters? The case of Tilagan, the case of the actress who had to undergo a contract rape.
You see, you and I may have very different takes on these things. Like, if only they have done like this, if only they have decided like this. But I do not want to make a comment on an open platform because the sensitivities are very high. I don't know why I say this. I have very clear take on this, but the sensitivities among these members are very high. In fact,
Fair
one
enough.
gentleman walked out of a meeting when we were trying to give an award to the Women in Cinema Collective. I was on the jury of a TV award committee. You know, I was the chairman of a jury where one association has to be given an award. So this was one of the nominations. I said, Women Collective in Cinema should be. So one of the members immediately walked out saying that if they are going to be awarded, I don't want to sit on the jury. I said, please go ahead. He went away. Of course,
Fair
we
enough. I
gave the
get your
award.
point.
So this
Yeah,
is the kind of
I will-
sensitivity.
Absolutely, I agree to that. I just remind our viewers that the next episode of All That's Kerala will be a fortnight from now on the 12th of December, on next two Saturdays from now. 12th of December is a Saturday. We'll have as our guest Sri Riaz Komu, artist and sculptor, and one of the two founders of the Cochin Biennale. He is, of course, for those who know him and those who don't, he's a social thinker who has tried to bring arts and society and thinking together. I'll be talking with him on art as neighborhood. It's a complex subject, but Riaz will simplify it for us, dividing the subject into various sections. Moving on into the Malayalam industry, back to Jayakumar. You see, you spoke about megastars and the huge fees. Again, you may not like to answer this, but I will ask the question. A huge fees which is being demanded by our film actors from our, is the film industry, not only in Kerala but across India, is not being fueled by black money, by unaccounted money? How does that, in a sense, on the one hand, social themes project a good picture and try to change society, but on the other hand,
Made by bad
the
money.
internals. Yes. So if you don't want to respond to that, fair enough. I won't.
As
press
long as
you.
black money
But
is
if you would like to.
as long as black money is in circulation in society, it will seep into real estate, it will seep into politics, it will seep into films. The answer is to eradicate black money from society. You cannot claim these things. You know? The only thing is what I can do is I always accept a check when they give me some remuneration. Or you can't accept black money. That is all we can do. But there is a lot of I'm sure there might be, but there is no answer. Like if I say that okay, cinema should be free of black money, there will not be any cinema. As long as black money is in society, it will seep into politics, into real estate, into everything, into films, isn't it?
So is Malayalam cinema imitating Malayali life, or is Malayali life imitating Malayalam cinema? Where does it begin?
I didn't get the question.
Could you hear that?
I didn't
So
get it.
is Malayalam cinema imitating our life, Malayali life?
I
with
think
all
we are
its,
imitating
good and
Malayalam.
bad? Or is
Malayali, I have to take out that. I think Malayali is imitating Malayalam films.
Oh, well, that's true. Because I saw a film the other day called Action Hero Baiju. It's a film about a macho young sub-inspector who beats up suspects, bends and breaks the law, does not care two hoots for the due process, locks up people on suspicion, and third degree is right down the thing. And he's a young guy, and everybody in the theater is clapping when he's doing all this. The hero, action hero Baiju, is investigator, he is prosecutor, he is judge and jury. So, I mean, are our young not going to imitate somebody like this? Forget our young, aren't our young sub-inspectors, are they not going to imitate a hero like him because it's so much in the public mind?
I think, you know, Malayali is a very sensible guy. He imitates the film. He imitates film or art for that matter, if it suits him and his entertainment quotient. Mostly, I think mostly the Malayalam films have contributed to our sense of humor.
That's true, very true.
Our humor has been totally guided, and vice versa also. Malayali humor is also very wry humor. It's a killing humor. And humor, of course, there is a kind of give and take between film and our life. But when it comes to other social issues, for example, patriarchy, male chauvinism, many of the characters in the earlier films could be judged very harshly by feminist standards or like equity, standards of equity, gender equity. Malayalam films have always violated the norms of gender equity as we understand today, because patriarchal formula have been a winning formula. The macho man, Mohanlal, the macho man, you know, the protector of woman, and woman always serving a subservient Kudumbini, the light of the house. This kind of
His life.
archetypes have been
Right.
molding our films for quite some time, and therefore commercial cinema has not influenced us in a very positive fashion, I should say, not in changing our social mores and social norms. Rather, it has reiterated most of the existing stereotypes.
Okay,
the
thank you.
modern-
Let me move from the past and the present to the future because we are running short of time.
Yeah.
There's this question, and I think that's the best way to go to the future. There's the question from Ashwin Pauli. He asks, why do you think our films, and he includes the Indian film also, are not recognized on global platforms? Why, like the Oscars, when do you think the Malayalam film will win an Oscar?
I think we will hit the Oscars when our young people are given the liberty and encouragement to think so freely and out of the box. The films which have been recognized in major film festivals are those not made by major filmmakers here. They are all offbeat directors, one of their kind. They out of passion they have made films. So it is a passion that matters. After all, a film is also a piece of art. It's a statement. It's an artistic statement by the director. But because it's a very expensive medium, there are a lot of entry barriers. If the OTT platform is one good thing, lack of emphasis on superstars is another option. I'm very hopeful about Malayalam film industry. I may not be as hopeful about Malayalam film songs, but about Malayalam films, I am very hopeful and positive because there is a new breed of young filmmakers, daring filmmakers who take upon any theme, any theme, socially relevant themes, and explore it very sensitively. I'm sure that the next 10 years are going to be Malayalam films decade, no doubt about it. Our young fellows are so very good, very, very dynamic filmmakers.
That's a very positive thought, Jayakumar. We earlier spoke about the COVID. Malayalam film industry and film industry all over the world has run into huge losses with COVID. Theaters are empty, multiplexes are empty. How do you see the film industry going forward after COVID? You spoke about OTT platforms, Netflix and things have taken over. They've got a huge following. So you really think the traditional filmmaking, cinema making that we are used to will change and will shift more and more to OT platforms, to multiplexes and so on? And if that is the case, how is it going to impact the industry in Kerala?
At the moment, film industry is highly impacted by COVID. There are thousands of people living depending on film industry. Not only superstars, smaller stars, technicians, so many of them survive on films. For the last 9 months, nothing has happened. So film industry is really in a crisis. Post-COVID is not going to be like pre-COVID days. I'm sure about that. It is going to be a hybrid reaction, or our response is going to be a hybrid kind of reaction, in the sense low budget films will take over. High budget films will have its own limitations. Definitely there will be theater releases, but reserved for very high budget films. And low budget films will go to the OTT platform. It is going to be a coexistence of high budget and low budget films, theater release, as well as technology OTT platforms, even new OTT platforms coming up. I think post-COVID is going to be a more promising, I should say. If we get out of this tunnel of current days, it is going to be a period of opportunities. A period of opportunities where our stereotypes will fall away, and a lot of opportunities. After all, the film that I have made should go to the viewer, that is all. I think this platform, technology is giving us wonderful opportunities, and I am very hopeful that more and more filmmakers, daring filmmakers, will come up and take our Malayalam films forward.
Two quick questions because we are running short of time. One my own, one sent in by Sri Kumar Raghavan. You are a civil servant and somebody with a foot in the film industry. So you have these 2 feet. one in the film industry, one in the civil service. Do you see, that's my question is, do you see a conflict between these two roles? And the second question comes from Sri Kumar Raghavan. He asks whether, is it because your father discouraged you from entering the film industry that you became a civil servant?
He did all that was possible in his command to discourage me from entering films. But once I joined the service, then I said, I'm going to write lyrics. He said, go ahead and do it. My conflict in films and vis-a-vis civil service was only on very technical grounds. Because I didn't want the vigilance fellow to come after me saying that, have you accepted money for film writing? Have you taken permission? That is all. Secondly, there was a constraint of time. Because film industry is a very informal kind of industry. Somebody will ring up from Chennai saying that, sir, can you take the evening flight and come there? We have a recording day after tomorrow. Can you write 5 songs? I can write 5 songs, but I can't leave Trivandrum because there is a chief minister's meeting day after tomorrow. I can't come. So I must have weighed these options. You know, I never erred on the side of civil service in order to accommodate a film. Film was secondary to me when I was in regular service. That is why I did not kick up any controversy saying that IAS officer missing in Kodambakam and all these things. Although in one of the meetings, one of my chief secretaries, when I was absent on leave or something, he was, where is Jayakumar? Somebody's, oh, he must be somewhere in Kodambakam writing films. I was ridiculed by one of the secretaries.
For those who don't know, Kodambakam has many meanings.
So,
okay, go ahead.
So this was the only practical conflicts. On my aesthetic side, on creative side, I never had any conflicts because I always lived 2 lives. The life of the civil servant and the life of the artist. Even right from the beginning in my service, my nights were my artist nights and days were that of the civil servant. There was no conflict. Of course, when you write articles and all those things, you have to be conscious about the conduct rules, which I always was. Now I am a free man.
And in spite of that, you wrote 600 film songs. That's stupendous for me, Amina. Amazing. You said you will continue your presence in the film industry now that you are no longer a civil servant, that you have retired. So will you continue your presence in the film industry, you said, through direction?
Yes, I have already worked on a few scripts as a script writer. I'm taking a couple of documentaries. I might also direct a film. I'm working on it. Because film is in my, I directed a children's film, you know, in 2000. In 2000, directed a children's film, 2 hours, 1 hour, 50 minutes film. Now I might direct a couple of feature films also, aesthetically good films, which that's what I claim. I'll be there because it is in my genes.
Would it be an M. Krishnan Nair type film, or would it be Adur Gopalakrishnan type film? Or both?
Dedicated to the memory of my father, but I want to follow some very good filmmakers, you know, aesthetically evolved filmmakers.
Have you ever thought of getting into acting? You're a very handsome man.
Pardon?
Have you ever thought of getting into acting?
No.
You're a very good-looking man. No, why?
Not even in my better days. Now I am in the evening years of my life. But in good old days also, I never had this. Acting is not in my blood. But filmmaking is. I will do a couple of films. I may not be the greatest filmmaker, but it will give me satisfaction.
Thank you so much, Jayakumar. I'm stopping here because of constraint of time. We don't want to go more than 1 hour. We already done that. Otherwise, I could have gone on for quite some time. But thank you so much. It has been a very enriching experience for me in terms of knowledge about the film industry.
Thank you very
Malayalam
much.
film industry, and your answers have been brilliant. I mean, the analysis, the thought behind that, the thinking behind that, the analysis behind that, and the forward-thinking.
When you are going to talk to Mr. Riaz Como, whatever I said about appreciating a film and appreciating an art, I'm sure you should cross-check with him, or rather interrogate with him how to appreciate abstract art, how to appreciate new installations, installation art, new sculptures, all these things. He is a wonderful person. He's an intellectual. He has original thinking. He has actually deconstructed the entire approach to sculpture. He's a very wonderful artist. Wonderful artist. I have a lot of admiration for him. So convey my regards to him.
I'll do that. He might be listening into this. I'm not quite sure. I'll complete it by saying, and you should tune in on 12 Saturdays. So I'll again just remind our viewers that The next episode of All That's Kerala will be in a fortnight from now, 12th December 20, Saturday. And our guest will be Sri Rias Komu, artist and sculptor, and one of the two founders of the Cochin Binale. Rias Komu is a social thinker, and as Jayakumar just said, he's an intellectual artist who has tried to bring thinking and arts and society together. I'll be talking to him on art as neighborhood, and he will deconstruct that for you. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And
Mohit, would you like to take over and do the final thanking?
I think after such an erudite discussion, and what I can understand from this session is that whenever I come for a complete immersive trip to Kerala, sir, your discussions have actually added a new dimension to it. And that's when people come to Kerala just as a tourist destination, no, they should not. They should actually immerse into everything. And this is the beauty of All That's Kerala that we are trying to discuss here, that literature, poetry, art, script writing, just imagine. And nobody could have ever imagined for such a senior government officer to talk about such in-depth knowledge about literature and the scripts and the movies. This is brilliant, sir.
Without getting into controversies. Kerala controversies are just...
Yes, that could be a very interesting session as well.
And just a reminder, Jayakumar has written a book called Krishna Paksham. He wrote it first when on the 10th death anniversary of his father. It has been republished recently in 2019. It speaks about his dad, M. Krishnan Nair's journey through life and through the Malayalam film industry. Some very interesting thoughts emerge from the book. So those of you who know Malayalam and can read it, this is a book I'd recommend.
I'm happy that you read it. I'm happy that you read it.
I did. Cover to cover.
So I think a special mention to Mr. Rajiv Talwar for joining in today. And from his soup to, I think, the bread, he is there with us for the entire session.
Yes.
And now Verma is also.
It's been an enlightening talk. I am permanently hooked onto this program thanks to what we heard today. And the depth of your questions, MP, and the kind of answers and the vast knowledge that Jay carries with him, I mean, I think you just made my day. You just made my day. And incidentally, today is my wedding anniversary. It just makes my wedding anniversary. And thank you, Mohit. It's been a marvelous evening. Thanks to you guys. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you, Rajiv. And when I come to Delhi with my films, I'll introduce you. I'll invite you for my preview.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes. And we will know that you are the real star, nobody else.
Now I know 28th November is your wedding anniversary.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
28th is my son's birthday also.
Wow.
My first child. So it's a good day.
Good day.
Love Verma is also here, Jayakumar. So
Love Verma, nice to know that you are somewhere there. So thank you very much, and it was a very wonderful session. Thank you, Joseph, for remembering me and trusting me with this very responsible job. Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Thank you, Rajiv. Seeing you after a long while.
Thank you, and love to the families.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.